Good morning. Evelyn McKnight, One Arm University. Today we're going to talk about preserving vegetables. Now, the way to do that is to blanch them, which means to expose them to boiling water. And then after a period of time, you have to look up how much it is for each type of vegetable. Then immediately plunge into ice cold water. And the reason we do that is so that we get rid of bugs and dirt, but also so that we deactivate enzymes that would be detrimental to the color, texture, flavor, and nutritional value. Because after we plunge them, get them cooled off, then we're going to put them in bags and freeze them for later. So before I lost my arm, I used to do a lot of freezing and canning. I've given up canning. It's heavy work and it's hot work and it's just too dangerous for me as a single arm person. But I'm still able to do some freezing and I really enjoy that. It's in my DNA. My mother canned and froze all of the produce from her garden for many years, and I enjoy it as well. Now, it does take some time, so you have to look at your own life and see for yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? You know, evaluate, yes, maybe there's some cost savings, but do I give up something else because of it? Do I give up time that I would rather be doing something else? I enjoy the process, so for me it works. But you have to think for yourself how your life is. So the first step is to cut. I'm going to do greens today. That's easy, and it's also what we have available from the garden right now. So I've picked the greens this morning. I picked some kale and I picked some chard, and I washed them initially and cut them off the main part of the stem. But you still want to cut into smaller pieces. So with the chard, you don't have to cut off all of the stems. You know, it's a more tender stem, and so it's still very tasty when you eat it next winter. So I like to use this rocker knife. I just pile it up and cut through. And it doesn't have to be real small pieces because it does boil down to very small pieces. But you don't want real stringy pieces next winter when you use it in your recipes. Now, kale is a little different. Kale has this very tough middle rib as well as a very tough stem, and so you have to cut that off. So what I do is to stack them up so that the middle stem is right down the middle, and then again I take my rocker knife, cut on one side of that stem and then the other side. And then I take the middle piece out and throw it away. Now this again is just a little bit more labor than even I appreciate doing. So you might want to just stick to chard so that, or other kinds of greens, spinach for example, so that you don't have to spend your time cutting out that middle stem. It is kind of laborious. So here we are. Here's our greens in bite-sized pieces. And I've discovered something not too long ago, since I lost my arm. This dough cutter or pastry cutter is really handy for scraping down the counter, scraping all those little bits and pieces of food debris into your sink. It works faster and easier than wiping down with a washcloth. So now we're going to go on to the next step. The next step is plunging the greens into the boiling water. Now, again, I'm doing greens today, and that takes a minute. You should have the greens in the boiling water about a minute. But other vegetables, you'll have to look up to see what is recommended. For example, you can do this with carrots, with peas, with corn, and each of them have their own specified amount of time to be in the boiling water and then plunged into the ice bath. So I've got my pot of water boiling. I use a steamer basket, and I use one with a very wide diameter handle at top so that I can reach it out easily with my tongs. So I'm going to put about 2 handfuls of greens into my steamer basket. Put into the boiling water. Make sure it all gets in there. Alexa, set a timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
I've prepared ahead of time an ice bath. So I have a very big bowl of water, ice water, and as soon as we've reached a minute, I'll pick up that steamer basket and put it into the ice bath. Often I have a second often I have a second steamer basket ready, full of greens, and as soon as I take one out, I put the other one in, and then while the second one is boiling, the first one is being cooled off in the ice bath. There we are. Alexa, timer off. So here we go. I use my tongs. I can reach that
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
handle and then plunge into my ice bath. I let that cool off. And again, often I'm doing the second one while that first one is cooling. And at about the same amount of time, about a minute, maybe a little less, the ice, it really cools off real quickly. When it's really definitely cooled down, then I take it to my salad spinner. Now it's really cool, so it's very easy for me to handle. I dump it into the salad spinner. And give it a good spin. The idea is to get off as much moisture as possible so you have less iciness, freezer burn when this package goes into the freezer. And it seems to me you could spin this all day and still have damp greens, but it gets a lot of the moisture off. So there's my greens. You can see how much moisture came off. And now it's time to put the greens into the bags. I was able to find these plastic bag holders, and they work pretty well. Put one side into each holder. There we go. Now it's nice and open. And then your greens go in. Greens really cook down. You think you're just putting so much into a recipe, but you know, after it's all said and done, there really isn't as much in there as you thought you'd have. You aren't overloaded with greens. I'm putting 2 steamer baskets full of greens into my quart Ziploc bag, and then that's really a good amount I've found for recipes that have a casserole recipe, or if you just even want to stir fry some greens with some other vegetables or whatever it is that you like. So here we go. That's a nice size. You want some head space. So then take it off of the holder. Flatten it out a little bit. You want to get as much air out as you can. So I flattened it out, try to get out air. Close the zipper most of the way. And now I'm going to insert a straw into this one end. And close it up as much as I can around the straw. And then I'm going to suck out air as much as I can. Here we go. There we go. Looks pretty. Nice and green. Got some good suction going on. So it's ready for the freezer. And next winter I'll remember this day and remember how we shared this. And I hope that others of you that have any comments, anything that, any tricks, any suggestions, any ideas that you have, that you share and comment so that we can all learn together. So happy delicious eating, and next winter when we're pulling out a package, we'll remember how it is that we got to have those greens in the freezer. So thanks a lot. One Arm University. Please share, like, subscribe. See you next time.